Key to understanding how I feel about Rainswept is understanding its marketing. It markets itself as a point-and-click adventure, but it isn't. It's a visual novel with some minor inventory management, but it's a game that plays itself. There's no puzzles to solve, there's no kind of real investigation work here, despite it being a detective murder mystery that you're solving. It's really a visual novel about relationships, trauma, and moving on from terrible circumstances. And once you view Rainswept from that lens, as rather instead of it being the point-and-click adventure it was marketed as, I think you can live with how Rainswept actually plays and feels and what it does much easier. In Rainswept, you play as Detective Michael Stone, and he's been brought into the town of Pineview because there's been a murder-suicide of a young couple called Chris and Diane. They're relatively new to the area, they never really fitted in. Lots of people suspect that there's foul play involved, and so Detective Stone needs to go off and investigate that. What that means is that you'll be marching around all of the town, talking to different people, finding out what their whereabouts were at the time of the murder, looking around crime scenes, and walking up to various different things, and making sure that the menu then kicks off for you to then examine stuff so that you can then progress the story. In something of a retro throwback to the 90s, it has a weird way how you can't see everything that you can interact with on the screen in front of you. You have to kind of walk around until you're in the vicinity of what you can pick up, and then the options start to appear for you to interact with things. And if that's what they call point and click adventuring, fine, but I found that a little bit retro in not the good way. I feel like we've come on from that type of game design in point and click adventures, and it does nothing but slow Rainswept down slightly. The game itself can be concluded in about 6 hours. The tale, though, is really what holds the game together, because what it does is it starts to explore different people in the town, Dr. Stone himself, Chris and Diane as a couple. You actually play as Chris throughout some of the game, as it kind of dives into their backstory as you uncover memories and things like that of what's gone on before, and you do that by talking to all the people in the town. It draws in why these people never fitted in, why people are acting cold or standoffish, and everyone has their own set of problems, and everyone seems to be a victim of something. Now, some of this is portrayed really well. Some of this feels like exposition dumps, but it still kept me invested in the game because there was always something kind of bubbling under of a new weird mystery of another person who'd had another slice of poo pie in their life to try and get through. Now, with such mature themes such as domestic abuse, rape, murder, suicide, all of that kind of stuff, it then feels weird to have that as a backdrop with these graphics going on at the same time. And there is definitely a tonal problem going on throughout Rainswept. The backdrops, totally fine, look and feel perfectly fine. It's the character movement. It feels like they're taking the piss, and it reminds me of South Park's Terrence and Phillips cartoons because of how their limbs kind of just like flip-flap around. It's not good. And like, if I didn't have that direct reference, it would just look clumsy and awkward. But it then feels like it's trying to do a parody of itself because of the graphics being really strange. So yeah, just be aware of that. But then on the flip side, you've got a really good soundtrack that keeps a much more moodier, subdued theme going on at the same time. So it's like a weird hodgepodge of things, but its story is strong enough to be able to overcome all of these weird idiosyncrasies and problems and tonal issues that you have from the graphics and everything else that's going on that it's dragged up from 1992. And so, yeah, just know that going in, and I think you'll have a good time with Rainswept. I think if you aren't a fan of melodrama, this might not be the game for you. And if you come here thinking, cool, I'm going to solve a murder mystery, again, put yourself into check with that, because it's marketed as being that, but it's really about much more personal inner demons, dealing with relationships, suicide, real big topics and themes. And whilst the murder does get solved eventually, it's almost secondary to being able to have other people come to some kind of catharsis and talk about what it's like to have something or some kind of trauma, and then use that as a base to build up and move on from, hopefully into a better, more stable future, as building blocks for a happier life. Written review will be over on highplanegames.com. Really odd title. Totally see why some people would go, not for me. But if that kind of story appeals to you, keep it on your wish list and definitely grab it whilst it's on sale. Take care all. Bye-bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.